So, a man goes missing, right? He disappears, and it seems as if only his family members are in search for him, as well as the sheriff's office, right? Not the public or anything else. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. Like, subscribe, ID, and the Discovery Channel. Yes, ID and the Discovery Channel. The links are provided below. Get that Discovery Go app as well as that ID Go app. You might want to get those two things combined or make them into one. And I'm indeed a influencer. I'm a Discovery influencer. That's in fact truth. Let me turn my volume up some. I'm a Discovery influencer. So, once again, a male went missing, right? I searched everywhere. He's been found, as in his body was located, right? But he was not logged in, say, the FBI's database, right? When you Google his name as well as him being missing, there's no information there except for one flyer, right? Things like that make me question the black community. It just does. As in it has to, right? Because every time this comes up every so often, it makes me question Black Lives Matter more than anything. Black Lives Matters, right? BLM is going to make me question them, and I have to state this over and over. He was indeed a black male, but to know there was only one flyer, no YouTube videos, and you can't find him hardly anywhere in the Google search is to say that's a black community issue, right? I'm one to call that sort of thing out. So 60-year-old Charles Edwards, he would have been 60 years old here in 2020, right? He went missing on Monday, November 19th, 2018, around 1 p.m. after he was dropped off at his van, which was broke down on Highway 261. That's Manning Highway, approximately 8 miles west of Highway 52. Charles was 58 when he died back in 2018. When they found him, when he disappeared and he was found, he was in fact 58, right? It's precise. So his cause of death, it was discovered that Charles was killed by ways of a hit and run, and his body was located in a ditch. His body was found on December 4th, 2018. Family of Charles reported him missing because they have not heard from him during that time period. No one had heard from him, right? No one had seen him. So that is in fact from, what is that? That's a month, right? That's a whole block of time, as in the time frame in a month, right? What helped in him not being seen? What helped authorities locate the body of Charles is by them searching for his last phone call location. His phone information is what helped authorities to locate his body in a ditch. That's where the body was found, in a ditch. The body of Charles included evidence which showed he was killed by a hit and run, and that being that somebody hit him with their vehicle. So his body, you got scarring and all the rest, right? Bruises and all the rest. So that's in fact was his cause of death, right? At that time, back in 2018, his case was under investigation. Of course, back in 2018, family of Charles had his funeral and closure of his death. So I had to make notes because, once again, going back to my opening, when I went to scour the net to try to see, I could not find any information on him. And weird and randomly enough, somehow I came across his son's YouTube, right? His son had, I think, like 5 or 6 videos on his own YouTube account, right? His stuff on his YouTube was like more music based, right? But there he had one video, I think it was like 58 seconds long, asking if anyone knew anything on his father, right? That was back in 2018 once again. But I couldn't find anything else. There was nothing on Reddit, nothing throughout Google, right? And so that's once again a black community issue. You can't sit up here and say, well, race is not looking for us. Whether FBI wasn't looking for this male or not is still your own community. It's still our community, which is why I'm sitting here, right? With 2 YouTube accounts, right? Searching for missing people, right? It's still our responsibility. We can't go say blame another race because I couldn't find. No, I'm gonna look at his family members as his son was searching for him. But that's to ask, where was his cousins, nieces, nephews? You see what I'm saying with this sort of thing? Where was his nieces, nephews, people he worked with? As in, even black people do have friends. Black people have associates, right? Whatever, some blacks go to church or whatever. Where is all those individuals in searching for people like him? Because that's a very sad and bleak, hopeless situation. It's to know that a person could go missing like that and your own race kind is not looking for you. I mean, some of these videos that when I search for missing persons and say they're black, right? More so, because I'm speaking on that, because to be clapping and all this for other black folks that's famous, right? And yet all these other blacks are not being searched for. That's a number one problem. Because it could be a missing person, right? It could be a black missing person. It could be white. But remember, whites, we're each responsible, as they say, for our community, right? I intermingle and I practice diversity, which is the point of me being with Discovery, right? It's to search for each individual, as in broadly, diversity, right? But if I'm constantly told by blacks, well, they're not searching for our kind, well, it's a lot of many various black missing kids, as males, females, right? What if it's one right now that's being chained up in somebody's house and being beat half to death or whatever and screaming out and crying out, and yet the black community is not searching for them? That could have saved their life. I don't know who knows that sort of thing. Usually you will run, if you really feel that a races of white people is not searching for our own kind, and you would run at least 3 or 4 YouTube accounts with other groups of people. I don't know who don't know that. I run 2 YouTube accounts and other social media accounts outside of this, right? One YouTube account is bigger than the other YouTube account, right? This YouTube account is more smaller. It's reason for that, right? Who doesn't know that? As in, you're going to, in fact, in this day and age, 2020, is you're going to be your own media, is what I'm trying to say. Even if you're not with Discovery. Because I know that the news and everybody else is online, and a lot of people are sitting online, is to say, why not use your common sense and thinking skills and put some potential with that and search for black folks instead of crying, blaming other people, right? That's stupidity, right? So he was found dead in a ditch. His body was he was found during the time period I stated, that it took a month, right, to find him. Struck and killed, right? I found only one news blog, and that was King's Tree News, and yet that wasn't an official news. That was just like a blog site ran by an individual, right? So in a sense, they in fact, yeah, kind of like how you have mom and pop businesses, right? Mom and pop type of businesses that run their own thing, but they carry it as the news, right? That's where I indeed found his information, which is sad in itself, because yeah, that will be the number one thing. For those that want to know, King's Tree News is where I found it, right? His information. That will be the number one thing. Well, the news aren't showing us. Well, what are you doing? Because to be sitting on Instagram and sit and watch and say somebody like Erykah Badu in battle with Jill Scott, or sitting whoever watching these rappers, Swiss Beats with Timbaland and all the rest, to sit and watch all this type of stuff is to say you can use just as much time to get on Instagram and air some of these black missing persons. I call stuff like that. I'm not no real from fake. Because for how much people sit there and be sitting on Instagram and all these other stuff and be watching people's live news feed and all the rest of celebrity battle this and celebrity rapping and singing this, and then watch that for hours on end, and then start complaining about how the news is not looking for us, or the news or the FBI isn't blasting our faces. The more society progress pertaining to technology and all this, right? That's why Instagram and all that is there. It's not there just to watch random celebrities battle rapping and singing. Shows intellect on my own end. Nobody's gonna just be sitting there on Instagram. Well, did you see such and such got in a fight with such and such? You should be using that for much more. That, as in, if you got a problem with low self-esteem, not wanting to set foot, that's another thing with the black community. If you got an issue with self-esteem, not wanting to set foot, that's why a lot of these you still can't blame outside races for that sort of thing. That's another reason why a lot of black missing people are missing, is because of that. The low self-esteem issue amongst the black community. If you have low self-esteem and you're black, you don't need to be watching black celebrities until you take care of your own low self-esteem enough to progress in life to help look for these missing people that you're blaming the system for. That's just common sense. If I got low self-esteem, I'm not gonna sit and watch Jill Scott battle Erykah Badu and what celebrity got in a fight and this person. I'm not gonna sit and watch that stuff if I ain't got self-esteem enough to work on myself, to progress myself further, to watch and look for my own missing people in my community. So I ain't gotta blame no system. That's common sense, and yet not everybody has common sense. So that was the only blog. In 2020, it was only one blog showing this man missing. Okay, when it comes to, because see, it all comes down to personal responsibility. It's enough blaming the system. It gets to a point where you got to start blaming yourself. So it's more of the family's position more than FBI to contact and stay in contact with FBI. Does that or does that not make sense? I'm not blaming any other family I'm speaking on, instead of constantly blaming the system. That goes for any race. Instead of blaming the system, is to take personal responsibility. So it's once again on the end of the families. It's the family's position more so to stay in contact with FBI as well as contact FBI. Right? That gives you power in your hand to take the right of your family member, as in searching for him or her, if everybody else is not doing it. And you're gonna stay on FBI's butt, as in tail, looking for your family members. Everybody has a personal choice, right? And I'm stating that because when I went to go search through FBI's database for missing persons, I couldn't find him. And yet, to prevent blaming any system is to take personal responsibility. If my mother or my niece or my nephew goes missing tomorrow, I'm not sitting and waiting around for any system. I'm gonna, as in not blaming them, I'm gonna take matters in my own hands by going to look for and I'm going to join up in teams, as I'm going to force whoever black that wants to blame the system come join me, so that we can search and look for my mother, whoever, nieces and nephews and all the rest. And I'm going to be forward and direct with FBI. I know you guys are going to search for my loved one, as in I'm going to stay on you. That's how you handle that sort of thing. You don't sit back and wait for anything, because even a system feels that all humans are responsible for themselves. If you're not, then your mother, father really shouldn't have created you. I'm saying mother, father, right? That's the way that I feel. As in, one of my parents taught me, you responsible for yourself, right? If you have kids, you're responsible for them. So if I'm not speaking on this missing persons, but I'm just saying, I'm speaking as a whole. pertaining to people that always want to blame the system. You don't ever want to, and it's interesting because this man, him being deceased, as in him being a hit and run victim, is interesting because his family is not out here screaming and shouting, blaming the system. So I'm kind of speaking on the behalf of the dead, right? Pertaining towards people that want to go blame systems and all the rest. If you think that a system is so much at fault for things, you might in fact want to blame your own mother and father. Because see, your own mother and father was born and created before you were. They knew how the system was ran and operated, which means they should have prevented getting pregnant. Does that or does that not make sense? I'm not going to blame the system. I'm going to blame my own parent for even creating me. Some people can't think that far. Why would I blame my own parents? Because your mother and father came before you. As in, if they felt that this system was corrupt, they should never laid down and created you. That's to not say that you shouldn't have been born. That's not to say that. But to know that once again, your parents knew if they felt that a system was corrupt or greedy or shady, your parents knew in a sense that they shouldn't have created you. Because if your parents feel that they struggled all through life and they feel that the system was all corrupt, then they're completely at fault for bringing you into the world, because now you got their same mindset, your parents' mindset. Now you done adopted your parents' mindset pertaining to you blaming the system when you need to go back home and blame your parents. Yeah. As in, many people, in fact, need to face that in the black community. As in, blame your own mother or your father, right? You got people that blame the system for their father not being there. That's your father's. I mean, who don't know that, right? And that's your mother's. So, once again, this family on this man's own end is not doing all that. They're not ranting and raving and complaining. They just buried him, and that was the end of that. I just don't get why people feel, even in people my age, missing persons are missing. They blame everybody, right? And then they say, well, life is so hard. The system is against us and all the rest. And then they go and lay and make babies. If you feel that the system is so corrupt and the system is this and that, and your mother knew, and now you know, why are you even creating babies? That don't make sense. So all you're going to do is raise a baby to make that baby feel, and you're gonna raise a baby and teach that baby that baby is just as disadvantaged as you are and were. Common sense, right? As in, you're gonna prevent it by not possibly practicing abstinence or something, or birth control or something, so you don't create a cycle. Be mad at systems, right? Let me see. Yeah. Because if a news, yeah, the news, you're responsible for yourself. So who killed Charles Edward Holmes? Once again, who killed Charles Edward Holmes, and why did it occur? As in, who struck them? Who ran into him with their car and then pulled his body or picked his body up and placed it into a ditch, right? Remember, he died on a highway as his van sat there disabled. Therefore, why was he dropped off to his vehicle? If the vehicle was broke down and it was not able to run, why did whoever drop him off to his vehicle? So, a side swipe. That's what came to my mind. I was thinking it's a possibility that another vehicle came along and say either side swipe a vehicle is to run right past is and hit the person, right? Or he could have been coming out, say, towards the front of the vehicle or behind it, right? And not looking, and the vehicle was moving very fast, right? We don't completely know. It was under investigation at that time, right? That it's because, see, to have a hit and run is there's still the mystery in that, right? And yet I'm taking it all the way further, because to know that nobody was out looking for him or searching for him or questioning, is my position to question who could the individual have been, to make sure that it wasn't a setup or anything like that. Does that make sense? Because some people have been known, some people have followed people, some people have purposely killed people, right? That's why I asked, why was he in another vehicle being dropped off to his vehicle that was broke down, right? You're gonna question stuff like that. Why would somebody take him back to a vehicle that was broke down, right? Some people carry AAA. Not everybody can afford AAA, right? Some people don't have the means and the funds, right, for a tow truck, right? So when I asked about him being struck and killed while he was on the highway, his vehicle sitting off to the side, right, and then his body being found in a ditch later on, I said maybe Charles was trying to do repairs on his vehicle as he was struck and killed, and maybe he turned around. He could have walked in front of the vehicle or behind the vehicle, either way, and been struck and killed, right? Because to know a vehicle usually sits on the right side, right, is to think about the angle, as in who could have came along, struck and killed him. To be on a highway like that is to say, yeah, if a vehicle is broke down, it's to say a person could have been picked up by somebody, called somebody, had them pick them up to pick up something from a store or something so that he can be dropped back off to the vehicle, right, to make repairs. But you're making repairs on a vehicle on the side of a highway, right? So it's a mystery right there, as in the gap missing piece. Could have been under the vehicle, right? A van like his van was hard to get under. I'm thinking it would have been. That's what happens when you don't really have photos and all the rest. That's the problem right there, right? To not have pictures and all the photos and all the rest is to say one should try to dive in and see what could have happened. There's nothing there, right? Let me see. The van wasn't drivable. It was never stated whether the van was out of gas, right? Because a male will be able to answer me back on this sort of thing, as in another male, possibly a older male like this male was, Charles himself, that got struck and killed, right? On how that type of situation would play out if, say, a van of yours, you're driving it and it breaks down, right? And then next thing you know, somebody comes along and they drop you off to your van. That's to say, what's the possibility of you getting out, getting in somebody else's vehicle for them to take you somewhere, and then they bring you back to your van? Did you go get gas? Did you go get tools to repair your van, right? What did you do to leave and come back? Then for you to be struck and killed, for your body to be found in the ditch, right? Because see, a tow truck would have been questionable. It still goes back to that. I'm thinking usually a person will possibly sit in a van, call a tow truck, call AAA, call somebody that has a tow truck, or somebody that can bring them a gas can full of gas or something, right? But more so a tow truck to get the van going. But I'm thinking too, I would have been thinking too, whoever that person was that dropped him off to his van would have helped him or something, get the van going. I'm thinking that the person that dropped this man off to his van, if the van was broke down, why would they drop him off to the van and then let him just sit in the van? He's questioning how repairable was the van was the victim that got struck and killed, how was he in being able to being able to repair vehicles? You see what I'm saying? Enough to get a vehicle up and driving. Because I'm thinking anybody in that just don't seem right. I'm thinking anybody in their right mind, unless he told them to go, I'll handle it. You can go ahead and drive off. Just drop me off. I'll get the van up and running, and you just go ahead and beat, right? But I'm thinking any other grown man or any woman or anybody will be thinking, well, your vehicle's broke down here. I'm gonna give you a hand to try to jump the vehicle or do something to get the vehicle going. As in up and running. And then I'll leave. So after a hit and run, do you, as the driver who strikes and kills a victim, do you place a dead body in a ditch? Would you place a body in a ditch? A dead body in a ditch. Do you hit a man, kill him by accident or purposely, right? Accident or purpose, right? Do you take him and then carry his body over to a ditch? I'm surprised no one's seen anything, considering it was a highway. You have to question the time of day, even and in that. Somebody's seeing, whether somebody seen anything, right? There was no statement of eyewitnesses or nothing, right? No foul play was stated. But that's another story, because maybe it was an accident, right? And the person who struck Charles felt they had no other place to place him, right? Then in a ditch. And they more than likely put him in a ditch in hopes that he wouldn't be found. Because if that was an accident, as I say, some people get scared with that type of terrified. They don't know what type of jail time they're gonna serve, right? And so that could have been the possibility, but you want to question too to make sure there wasn't anything else, as in somebody dropping somebody off, such as a soon-to-be victim, as in a setup, and then they put them in a ditch or something like that. You want to question it, especially if there's any especially if there's any wife involved or kids or anything like that. You always want to question that part. So we're on investigationdiscovery.com. The ID logo stands in the far left corner. Live now. The Lake Erie Murders is what's on live now. New episodes. To receive an audio visual preview, well, to gain access, let's go there first. To gain access to this is to provide who you're subscribed to. That's the only way to gain access, is to provide who you're subscribed to. Right there is padlocked down for that sort of thing. Scroll down, unlocked episodes. To receive an audio visual preview is to click the play button right here. Click the play button to receive an audio visual, and you would in fact receive sight and sound with that. Recommended for you. Shouts out to Lieutenant Joe Kenda as well as Paula. ID Go original series. You can in fact go through any one of these ID Go original series. To receive I'm going back to that again. To receive an audio visual preview. To receive a newsletter from Investigation Discovery is to type your email address in and click next. And you would in fact receive a newsletter from Investigation Discovery. So let me know what you feel about this story, as well as the ranting and the raving and all the rest in the center that I threw in there. Because, yeah. Well, black folks do have that bad. I'm going to be honest. Because I grew up around my own kind, and I have to be forward with that, right? That's not me turning against my own kind. That's facing what stuff is. The only way to fix a community is to face it for what it is, as in facts. Who doesn't know that? Every time I state a fact, blacks get mad about stuff. What are you getting mad for? If you feel that I'm doing something wrong, you tell me to face it. So it's the fact, right? Or they'll say don't tell other races, or don't tell Discovery, or don't tell whoever. Don't tell other races that we got these issues. They know it anyway. Other races is gonna know anyway, because every time they turn on the news, it's there. When they say, well, the crime statistics and all the rest pertaining to the black community, blacks do a lot of killings, right? Well, we know whites do killings. We know Mexicans. We know all type of people do all type of crimes of all kinds, right? That spans across all races. But to know that it's a lot of blacks there on the news, I mean a lot, it's to say, how can we hide that? You can't hide what people already know. I don't know who don't know that that's common sense. You can't hide something that's already known. Already known. When they say, well, blacks love to fight a lot, and then I hear black people say, well, don't tell white folks that that's what blacks be doing. It's fighting all the time. Well, you can go to any hood and see that blacks be fighting. I grew up in that type of environment to know that you can drive down any street and hear a drive-by, or hear somebody got killed, or somebody got killed in a gang. As I say, that information is already out. You can't hide what people already know and see. As in, a person doesn't have to actually go to the hood in order to find out what is going on with black people. Because black people will go anywhere and make a fool of themselves, or I don't really go out here and make a fool of myself all like that, unless this is entertainment, pertaining to entertainment type of work type of stuff. But otherwise, I'm not going to do that type of stuff. I used to do that when I was young. I'm not gonna lie. Go off and scream and go off on people when I got mad or got agitated. That was my mindset when I was younger, right? And so you got a lot of blacks that do in fact have that mindset. I'ma just go off, or possibly just go shoot and kill somebody because I'm mad and disagreement because they step on my shoe. You can't hide that from other races. There's no way to hide that type of stuff. Because if it happens and the news team come out with their cameras and get it rolling right, as it says, it's gonna be right there on the TV. But it's the same way with white people as well. It's the same way with Mexicans. It's the same way with Asians. Population ain't really that high. Arabs, it's the same. I just feel that some races can in fact be more sensitive than others. Races or whatever, right? Can indeed be more sensitive than others. Some populations are in fact more sensitive than others. And many, in fact, need to get out of that, because there's no way to survive in life by just being sensitive by what other races have called you. People have, in fact, when it comes to slavery, people, in fact, survive slavery, and yet people in these times, blacks in this day and age, seem like they can't survive anything when it comes to some race type of stuff. But even slaves, there have been slaves that have survived slavery. And they endured much more worse than anybody black endures today. Remember, they endured beatings and all the rest when it comes to work type of stuff, or being forced to do type of stuff, or whatever, right? Who don't know that type of stuff? It's just my mindset is stronger than possibly most blacks when it comes to that type of stuff. Well, racism, they don't look for us other races, or what else do I hear? Well, they look at, all of us blacks as being, this or this or that. Well, They're gonna look at us because there is people with our skin shade that are committing those type of acts, and so they're gonna look at us like they're looking at us, right? And yet, if that's not you, then there's no point of even being offended, right? Why would I be offended? That I think that's too where it comes to the IQ, as in having some IQ about you. Why would I say, okay, we the black community, they're looking at us like we're all this and that, and yet there's subcultures and various cultures even within the black community, right? There the black community is not just we're black and we're just we're we. No, there's cultures in that. You got the hip hop culture, you might have some R&B type of culture, you might have people that practice or do cosmetology, right? uh Hair, nails, skin, right? You got the church culture, right? What other type of cultures do black people get into? I just said it. Like there's all type of there's cultures. Some people say culture, subculture, all the rest, and yet we does not mean just we. As in, you gotta be able to break stuff down culturally, as in there's more to we. There's gangs that practice gang violence, and yet I'm not a gang that practice gang violence. That's a culture in itself. That's the Crips and the Bloods. Black Crips and Bloods, that's his own culture over there, and yet they're not me. So once white people get to saying, well, blacks be killing each other, they're more likely not talking about me. They're talking about them Crips and Bloods over there. But blacks that don't really have high IQ, they're not gonna understand it. I've in fact got death threats from other blacks based off of how I talk, because they want me to stand and be mad at whites and all these other races based off of whites saying, well, blacks kill each other. They're not talking about me. They're talking about them gangs over there that's black committing gang violence, and that's a form of genocide as well. But I can't blame these other races for that sort of thing because they're not doing it. Those other people. And then if you say, well, when I hear, well, the white man made blacks kill each other. That killing each other started in Africa. And not only that, when it comes to NWA, niggas with attitude, with Ice Cube and all the rest, that mindset comes from Malcolm X. That's not the white man's mindset. Gangsta music, that comes from NWA. Ice Cube and all them, and NWA, Eazy-E, all them started that. Niggas with attitude, right? They took the style of Malcolm X and used that style to promote themselves in music. When Malcolm X had that in the photo, by all means necessary, Malcolm X had his gun, right? Malcolm X had issues with even the Nation of Islam turning against him. When I hear, well, white people turn us against each other, no, blacks been doing that since the beginning of time, because even Malcolm X knew that Nation of Islam wanted him dead. Rapper Ice Cube took that and used that for NWA, which is why you got black dudes killing each other off now. That's Malcolm X mindset. That's not the white man's mindset. Extraordinary is my mindset, as in I know who's doing what and why, is in the reason for stuff. To know NWA set that up when they say, well, the hip hop culture, the drug culture, all this other culture, right? When it comes to rap music, the white man, lace the albums for blacks to kill each other off. You can go right now and I can go interview Ice Cube, and he will tell me that was their mindset. Because there's even video footage on YouTube of Malcolm X coming out his mouth saying, they're going to kill me. He wasn't talking about whites. He was talking about the Nation of Islam, his own brothers, the Brotherhood. He's in videos. You know how old these videos are, but they can be in fact found on YouTube. I hold a progressive mindset is what it's called when I'm questioned. Well, what is your mindset? It's progressive, right? It's forward thinking, right? That video footage it's rare video footage of Malcolm X saying about Nation of Islam. He knew that he was going to die, as in he knew he was going to be killed by Nation of Islam because of him speaking too much. Ice Cube, NWA went right back to what he said and used that for their album, as well as cussing out police and kill the police or F the police when they had that song F the police. So NWA, Ice Cube's mindset back then was into following, not completely. Ice Cube came out and said they used Nation of Islam model and method, as in they weren't completely practicing Nation of Islam. When it comes to being a Muslim and all the rest, they were just taking the teachings and using that, right, to be pro-black in a sense, right, to say F racist white people and F blacks, niggas, we want niggas dead, just like Malcolm X pertaining to he knew he was going to die, right? Not everybody knows that. They'll just say, well, let's just go blame the white man for the record label having us kill each other off. That's why so many blacks don't get ahead in life. They just follow and go along with other people told them about the white man trying to have us killing each other. You might want to go have a conversation with Ice Cube because he started it. That just makes more sense. I'm going to go talk to Ice Cube and ask Ice Cube, because see, it all goes to pro-black anyways. The specific reason of why Ice Cube, NWA and all them started this whole let's kill other niggas, as in let's be black males kill other black males, our enemies, using that Malcolm X type of pulling from Nation of Islam 1 and Malcolm X did, right? That all goes back to the pro-black pertaining to the practices of pro-black, because Ice Cube got mad that his family members were too mellow and fighting against racism. He didn't like the fact that his family members was being spit on and all the rest, right? He felt that there should have been more of a violent type of tactic of violence. He wanted, Ice Cube and NWA wanted more of violence in that. Well, if you're going to fight racism, you're not going to be cool and calm like how Martin Luther King was. He didn't like that. He felt that that was too soft. So he went full pro-black, let's bring the guns out that Malcolm X had. Let's bring that, pack that in the album and sell it off. That's why during the golden era of hip-hop, when you had Queen Latifah out, you had KRS out, KRS-One, the rapper, all of them that was speaking about education. That's why their career died out in a sense once NWA hit the scene, because NWA and all the rest of them was like, let's kill everybody, let's kill white racists, let's kill the cops, let's kill our own niggas, as in blacks that don't like us, the enemies, right, in our hood, let's kill them off, right? Because while they were saying that, they were teaching other people in their albums to follow the same thing. That led to the death and the demise of educational rap, like KRS-One or Queen Latifah or the golden era of hip-hop. That's how a lot of the educational rappers died out. What they called like conscious rap, right? You had that back in the 90s. Many of them that was speaking on peace, and they was wearing like ancient Egyptian type of attire and all that, and they had it in their albums and all the rest, right? That's how that died off. You got most blacks don't even know that. They feel, well, you know, we don't have educational rap no more. You don't have it because you don't want it. These white people, white men, Jews, whoever, can only promote and sell to people that whoever wants gets, right? Because see, if I was a Jewish man, right? If I was a Jew, right? Jewish, whatever, right? White, whatever, right? And I go and I put music there for blacks and they buy it, I'm more likely gonna keep selling it. No matter what it is, they're buying it, right? They're the consumer. I'm giving them what they want. Consumers, a Jewish man or a white man or whoever else, even black man, can't continue to stay in business if he don't provide consumers with what they want. And that's just what the music industry does, provides people, consumers, with what they want. The whole music industry, the film industry, everybody would have died out a long time ago. Because once the consumer stop buying, the business dies out. The lights go out, right? People know that sort of thing, right? And so even in the black community, when I hear, well, they're putting out this trash music and they putting out this, well, you might not be listening to it, but all them other blacks are listening to it. And that's why we got it here, because any business goes with the majority. So when they put out something, they package it down, they put it out there, right, for whoever to buy. If the majority's buying and us being a minority, say in numbers, blacks is not the minority. Blacks try to play like blacks are the minority. There's people out here that have bigger problems as handicapped people, all type of people that are in fact indeed minority than blacks are. Because it had the internet, as to say, you got Instagram and all these other things that can help you make money, and not a lot of blacks are using it for that advantage. So you're no longer the minority, right? Let me call that out. But to be real specific, if a record label say put out whatever, right, me and another black person might be a small percentage that's not gonna buy it, but majority of blacks are buying it. They're still buying it. That's why you got hip hop and all the rest combined with iTunes enough to go buy. I'm extraordinary in knowing that sort of thing, as in figuring out, doing the sciences as well as math, to know who's buying what and the reason of why. Because see, if blacks pull back and stop buying, even Apple will die out to a percentage. Because I know music is put to Apple through iTunes, as I say, once blacks say, I'm no longer gonna buy hip hop, right? I'm not buying that. That's the trash. It comes from the white man selling it. I don't want nothing out of his hands. Once blacks stop buying, right, that's gonna make a drop off in sales in the iTunes, as in Apple. That's gonna help wipe out Apple some, right? And it's gonna more so wipe out the record labels, right? But to know that black consumers are continue to yes, consume, is to say that's why these big corporations are still putting stuff out. They wouldn't even survive. Ask me what I know. Because if hip hop is at the forefront now, more so than rock and roll and everything else, is to say everybody's buying and consuming. So why are those people even blaming the system, as in why blame people that's putting it out when you should be blaming everybody else that's consuming it? The consumers in fact help to dictate taste. Does that or does that not make sense? I don't know who don't know that type of stuff when it comes to certain stuff like that. I'm talking about people that come to me and want to be blaming this and this and that. Well, such and such is at fault. Sony Music is at fault for this or that. Well, all these consumers are sitting buying and watching them, and you can't get them to stop, because as soon as go ahead, walk down the street and have a conversation and tell such and such they need to stop listening to such and such rapper and singer. Tell them to cut it off and see how they respond to you. Or walk down the street and tell any black male or female stop listening to Beyonce. They might in fact want you dead if you say something like that, especially in the hood, right? That's to say Beyonce is going to continue to be Beyonce while people blame the system. Well, Beyonce put out this and this and that, and the system is at fault for that. Well, maybe you shouldn't buy from her, and then she might in fact die out or something with that, right? That I'm using her for an example. When you use somebody for example, you want to go for somebody that's big, as in making a lot of sales, right? You use them for an example because for how many people I hear say, well, the system this and the system that, and they don't ever look at the consumption on their own end. That goes for anybody, any rapper, singer. I can say Who else? I'm trying to think of who's in the EDM, as in electronic dance music, right? Calvin Harris. I don't know if you ever heard of Calvin Harris. There's different people, right? It's different people. It goes for any race. Consuming. Because this is the same type of example that it is when it comes to vegetarians and people that eat beef, as in the cattle and all the rest, right? It's the same thing. I can go down the street, right, tell somebody that's into eating meat, you should become a vegetarian like me. They're gonna go all up against me because remember, they're into eating meat and beef and everything else, right? So it's the same with people that when they consume this hip hop and consume it, right? And somebody else say, well, you might want to listen less to hip hop because they're killing people off and telling you to do drugs. You might want to listen to something else. Have you ever tried, some EDM or something softer or something like that? They're gonna go up against you. And that's why corporations will continue, record labels will continue to stay in business with that type of stuff. Because just because I feel like, well, I don't really want to listen to hip hop like that, and I try to talk people out of it, the majority of black community is not going to listen, because most of them are followers anyway. They want to be in with the in crowd. That's the problem anyway. Let me be in with the in crowd and be cool with the in crowd. That sort of thing get you dead. Ask anybody, know. Get your lights blown out. Get your life in jail sometimes, depending on your situation, who you are and who you hang out with, while listening to hip hop, right? As in who your influences are pertaining to who y'all hanging out with while you're listening to a rapper or whatever, right? That's indeed a fact, but not everybody cares to know that, because once you tell them that, then they get mad at you. It's a lack of self-responsibility in the black community is all I'm trying to say. It just is. It's completely a lack of, because if I'm a responsible person, right, in which I am, right, it's a lot of blacks that are not. If I know that life can be hard at times, right, why would I go and have a whole bunch of babies? But the next person is not going to think like that. They're just going to lay and have baby after baby, right? And then blame a system and everybody else for why they got a baby. There's people that have babies, right, in the black community, have kids, right? And then next thing you know, their kids get taken away, get placed in foster care. Even this has happened with missing kids, and I blame the parents for that sort of thing. I can't blame a system when a parent is not a good parent. That parent puts their child into foster care or whatever because the parent ain't raising the child or isn't raising the child right, and then the child get killed in a foster home, and now the parent wants to sit and cry. Well, if you knew life was hard to begin with and you took a chance to lay down and have a baby, is to say you wasn't in your right mind pertaining to logic and reasoning enough to raise your child, keep your child, to prevent your child going into to foster care enough for your child to be beaten to death or killed in foster care through the system, right? We can't blame the system for that sort of thing. We gotta blame people's mothers and fathers who's having these people. Who's having these kids or grown men and women. Yeah. That's a responsible person, a very responsible person, white, black, whatever, right? I'm speaking more so to black people because this is a big thing in the black community. I'm not gonna be sitting and blaming other races because it makes me more responsible once I blame myself. You give your power away blaming a system and everybody else when you blame them for your problems instead of being responsible for yourself. When I go and I blame a system and everybody else, I'm no longer responsible. It removes my power as a human. It in fact removes my rights. I'm no longer a human and I'm without rights because now I just gave all my power away to the system by blaming them. But to take my power back is to blame myself and be responsible as in to know my rights, right? Black people that don't think like me will want me shot and killed because they'll say I'm thinking like the white man. That no, knowing and having knowledge is not thinking like the white man, because even knowledge is not a race or a color. It just isn't. Knowledge is knowledge. When they say knowledge is power, it just is, right? There's no color, races, and all the rest with that. It just is. It exists, right? You either have it or you don't, right? And people that don't think that far on that sort of thing, I mention this same thing in various videos. I mention it all the time because I know that not everybody's seeing every one of my videos, is to mention it every so often, right? But to know what I'm saying is to say that's why so many blacks have yet to make it, because they have too much of a follower mindset to try to follow the majority of other blacks or whatever, right? To follow that mindset and just go along with everybody is to say they're following other people blindly. They're not independent thinkers, right? You're just following blindly. And now following blindly has led to you not wanting to own up to your own personal problems and not wanting to be responsible for your life. And it could lead to tragedy. Because to think that somebody is at fault for your problems is to go out and shoot somebody over something that's really dumb and stupid, right? Pertaining to, like how you got gangs. I've done death threats. I might in fact do one today, depending on the situation. Is if I really got an issue with somebody, right? I'm not gonna lie about that sort of thing. If I really got an issue of some type, but just to be, say, a person, like I said before, I have received death threats, right? But when it comes to, say, being in a gang, that's a person not wanting, they feel like, well, I didn't really have a good home. Some people that join gangs, I didn't have a good home life in the black community, or the black community might not have been all there for me, or my mother or father wasn't there for me, my brother, sister, I had some home life issues, so I'm gonna go join a gang. Well, even that's not self-responsibility. Because if something pop off and say a killing happened, a shooting, a killing, more than likely that gang is going to leave you there to be with that tragedy and that death, and you more than likely serve time and they going to walk away. As in, people have even got caught up in that sort of thing, hanging out with the wrong crowd, black guys hanging out. Let me go join the Crips and the Bloods, right? And I go hang with them, and then somebody else shoot and kill somebody I didn't. Everybody else run off, and I'm still standing there with a dead body or whatever. Or they pin it on me so they won't serve time, and then there you go, serving life in jail over a crime, murder that you didn't even commit. And now you sitting in jail blaming the system for a situation you put yourself in for joining a gang that didn't love you in the first place. That's the real deal. As in, my conversation is, most people, they don't really like me all like that because how I talk, and that's fine, because I'm not missing anything with even them on conversation, because it shows a lack of knowledge, a lack of substance, and low IQ. To not be able to keep up with my conversation is to rewind it back. But if you try to talk to me in person and you're not really interested in what I got to say, right, it's to say you might in fact have low IQ, because all this goes back to common sense anyways. Personal responsibility, as in taking matters into your own hands and not waiting for somebody else to do it for you. Because to wait for them to do this, or to wait for somebody to come to your rescue, is to say you might die out before they even get there, sitting waiting. I do it myself. So let me know what you think about this video, dear viewers. Yes, leave a comment in the comment section. May you enjoy your day. I will in fact enjoy mine, and I'm gone.